Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do an Oliprima landscape, actually kind of a seascape. And I have a reference photo right over here. This is actually a photo of a little inlet that is Tiny Rivers Inlet, about 5 miles from where I lived out in California for almost 20 years. I lived right on the coast. And so I thought, oh, it'll be kind of fun to paint some of that, just a little bit of the rocky coastline and a little inlet looking out through there. I'm going to change it quite a bit because I'm going to, I moved it over here to a longer board that's 23 by 13 inches here. So I'm going to actually expand the photo a little. You know me, I'm going to do that. I don't like copying photos, so I'm going to expand it a little bit. And this is just a 1/4 inch sheet of that sanded ply that I really like to use, 7-layer ply. It's really stable, it's archival, it lasts forever and ever, and it's not expensive at all. And then I gave it 2 coats of the Heritage Canvas Prep Medium with a sponge, and then I lightly sanded it with 180 grit sandpaper. My palette, this is a standard YouTube palette. I'm going to use it on a couple videos. As a matter of fact, I'm going to film a couple videos today, and I'm going to use this same palette. But here we go. The 3 yellows that I really like to have out: the Hansa yellow, the Darya light yellow, yellow oxide, the naphtha red light, burnt sienna, pine green, phthalo blue, quinacridone violet, red violet, and a big old bit of white because I'm going to use quite a bit of it today in all of the paintings. This is the Deravan Open Medium that I use a lot in the Oliprima lessons, lots of them out there. And so make sure you check all the playlists because I have a lot of Oliprima playlists that shows how to use the mediums. I also have a cap of the extender medium, the Heritage extender medium, which slows down the drying time, but also thins the paint a little bit. So I like to start with paintings like that. Okay, ready to go? Okay, so what I'm going to do here first is just start to do a little bit of sketching. One of the first things, and I'm just going to use an old bristle brush. I like to use an old bristle brush, kind of sketch my my idea here. And I like the bristle because it doesn't put on any texture and it doesn't make perfect lines, so I can change things really easy because I do change my mind quite a bit. We're artists. We're allowed to change our mind quite a bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here and I'm going to say, well, I like this, the sea, the actual horizon line of the ocean only comes down about 1/3 of the way. So I'm going to do about the same here. And I'm just going to take my little square that I made and I'll drop in that horizon line there that will show where I'm going to put the ocean. Now, there are some artists, and I've showed it before on other things, where some people come in and they put tape along the line and everything, and that's all good. You can do that, but you got to be careful how much atmospheric perspective you're going to put into your painting, and that tape can make that horizon line a little bit too perfect. This is quite perfect enough, but that tape can make it a little too perfect. We'll talk more about that as we get into painting. I do use it from time to time, but you got to be careful with that. Now, the rock, so when I look over at my reference photo there, the rock comes almost halfway all the way through. But I'm going to open this up a bit, so I'm not going to go quite halfway. And I'm going to drop the point of it down into the ocean here a bit. So the rock is going to come up and then angle up, and we're going to want it really kind of to go right off the side there of the painting that way. We'll do a slight widen it out just slightly, coming back up over here. We'll bring the ground back out, and then we're going to, I'm just going to lightly step way back on my brush because I want this to be really casual here. I'm just going to build this ground out here, somewhere out like this, for that that little water inlet there. And then the beach is going to, so we're going to have this rock coming down. We're going to have a rock that's going to come right about up into here. That doesn't have to be perfect. Just a little bit of a rock coming there. We might have to open that up just a bit more here. Okay, and let's drop in the sandy spit for this, which is going to come right about like that, and it's going to drop this back. We'll put a little bit of that beach sand and stuff right along there and right along into this area. and it'll come back and come back up into this. And what I really like about this is we're going to put some really nice reflective qualities here to the front of this ground here and this water and stuff. So anyway, I moved everything, some of that stuff over that way a little bit, moved that ground over that way a bit, so that's going to work out okay for me. I got a good idea. There's going to be a bunch of trees and all that kind of stuff right into here. How much we're going to add, I don't know yet. We'll take a look at that, okay? All right, so I'm just going to set that bristle aside here for a bit, and I'm going to start, just like what I always tell you, with good atmospheric perspective. You start with that sky. You look at that sky there, and it is a solid value 9. It's way up here, value 9, way up here to the lights. And I'm going to take some white here, thin it out with some of my nice dirty extender medium from all my paintings. I never, if you're using a high-grade acrylic, an artist's acrylic like Heritage is here, you don't have to worry about using dirty extender because there's never enough pigment in there to change the color of what you're doing too much. And then I'm going to make this just ever so bit of a blue here. Okay, and I might want to just gray that just a bit with even some of my burnt sienna there. And let's just get some of that movement on here, some of that sky right in there. I'm going to go right over my horizon line there. I want this nice thin. When I'm painting landscapes, especially when I'm doing the horizon, I like the skies. They have lots of mottled interest, so I don't want to go too much back and forth like this. I want to just break this up here into some, lights and mottled interest and stuff like that. Get some of that color in. Get that over the edge here. And then we can add a tiny bit of the blue to make it a bit darker, like a value 7 or so, and just put a bit of that up. And I'm just going to pull it down, move it down through the sky a bit here, just kind of model that up, and just to get some atmosphere or movement into the sky. Just a bit of that. So sometimes I'll put clouds and stuff in there. This is going to be kind of, we want this the viewer to kind of come in here and open up through here. So we might not put too many clouds or so in there. All right, now the ocean, there's a little bit more of a blue-violet when I look at that photo. So I'm going to add a couple values darker. So I'm going to add some blue, a little blue-violet here. Let's get it maybe up and around a 6. I look at that, it's a 6, a good solid 6 there. So that's pretty darn close to that. And I can get a nice looking ocean here just by just by using my brush here. Well, with a little bit of coordination here. Just use my brush here like this and just pull right along that edge there. Like that. Don't push too hard. Let that chisel get in there. See, and that gives you a nice looking ocean with just a little bit of variation. You can come in there and touch along with your finger to blur it up and add some other visual interest, which is one of the things I like to do. Just adds a little bit of movement back there. Let's just come back down in here. Push some of that a little lower. Right in here. Try not to take too long a strokes, but let's just deposit some of this paint. Pull down and through so you get a touch of movement in there. We'll come right over here, touch some of that over. We might move that rock over just a touch. We'll see. Everything's changeable in a David Jansen painting because I change my mind a lot as I'm developing it here. And that's really good for a lot of you, saying you're starting out your careers and stuff in art, and how do you go about this. And the other thing is, don't get so wrapped up in copying the photo. Let yourself change it and stuff. Photos are great, but they don't always make great paintings. Let's use some of this right up through here. We're going to put a lot of colors and stuff into this, into the water up here, but let's just block in some of this right now. And you notice I'm mixing up some more. I'm not thin it, I'm going to thin it out just a bit, but I'm going to mix it up just a bit more here and model it so I get some more colors going on in here, which it is important. It's important that you change up. So I'll go over here to a little bit more blue. We'll change that up a bit. So I got a little violet, a little bit of blue. Let's move through both in the vertical and the horizontal. Model that through here so you'll get a little bit. You see just a little bit of the changing of the color here. The hues change just a bit here. That's good. We'll drop some of this in here. This is our first look. See, we'll drop that in. Now in the original one, that ground, you know, I'm going to go right out into my ground and really paint kind of a loose edge. I like to do that. You know, I used to be more precise about doing stuff, and you know, everything looked a little stiff, and so now I'm a little bit loose, a little bit of edge. I like the edges of stuff to cross over back and forth, and that I feel helps my painting quite a bit. Now, let's we're not going to clean our brush. We're just going to take some burnt sienna over here, some green, some of my, don't mix it up real well. We'll model in just a touch of that blue and some open medium into here. And into the photo, when you look at that photo there, you'll see there's a real dark area here, real dark area here, right up in through this area. So this is where I'm just going to put on some of this. You see me do this in a couple of my last landscapes, and I really like doing it. You know, really depositing here and, you know, letting some of those colors come out. I might even touch a bit of the yellow to come in here every once in a while, but it's a nice heavy color here. There's a shadow right up there on that. We might leave that alone. But I let these darks, I start my paintings out with the real core darks, and we're going to go darker on this as well. But coming right back up through here, right up to this little point here, and we'll just block in some of that. See, I get that movement, and I'll get some greens and some, you know, I want some burnt siennas and stuff to come out through there. And we'll have some greens. We'll have some darker colors. We're going to hit some darker because that needs to go darker. Because even when you look at it right there, it is not quite dark enough. So, and that's what your violets do. Your blues, your violets here, blue, red, violet. You get those on there, you get these real core darks. There's the darker color that we used in the last landscape, the phthalo green blue that you can put out if you want to really get super dark, but I don't think we'll need that. See, that's pretty darn dark here. We'll get some, and just model it up through there. Get some of that that dark colors, just the colors here. We'll model that up through there. It's basically, and just small little movements, and that looks pretty good. Then we'll come out here with some light color, and really up in the front I want to really get a nice deposit of paint. I don't have quite as much foreground on this particular one since I've spread it all out and opened it up a little. I don't have quite as much foreground, but we'll deal with that as we get going. I'm going to take my scraper. You've seen me use this before with some of my lights, model in some of my yellows and burnt siennas here. We can even model through some of this color here. It's a great way to just real quick get on some of this other color, and we'll work into it and do more things here. This just gets color on. Part of the goal, the original goal I like to do right away is get rid of that light canvas, the light color of our board, and I'll model this and tap this around a bit. Get a bit more yellow in some of this here. And when you put them on, the color on this thick, this will stay wet for several hours here. Even though we don't really need it to, it will. Let's put just a bit of that right out over here. So it's a quick way to put it on, put the color on, and get that scene right there. There we go. There, get that on there. Clean up some of that, just pull right through. Get some of that. See, I like that, those shadows and those lines coming back down through there and stuff. That's just a nice there. Let's get a little more yellow, a little more burnt sienna, a little bit of that light, maybe a touch of that blue in there. Let's come back out here where that beach area is. Could go a touch lighter and just run that through. Boom, just like that. So we'll push a bit of that color in there. And see, that just models it, that gets a bit of that mottled color in there. Now, I was using a 1 inch. I'm going to go to a 3/4 inch here. And see, I'll just incorporate back some of this color through here. Just move my brush through it just a bit. Incorporate this. Incorporate the edges. I don't want to blend it. I'm just breaking the edges. I'm an edge painter. Everything I do, I watch the edges of what I do. So I'm just going to break up the edges there. I'll break up the edges here. Run that through. Here, we're going to run some of this dark out into the water a bit here, because we've got to really kind of close down this inlet here a bit. Let's bring some of that yellow this way a touch more. There we go. That's going to make the water even better and more reflective as we get there. But I'm liking this journey here. I like it to open up a little bit. We're going to close down just a touch up there still. But let's get a bit of our yellows. Boy, I'm kind of blown through that yellow oxide I put out there. I thought I put out enough for a couple paintings, but wrong. I use a lot of paint. I use a lot of paint. That's what makes it really work well here. And we'll kind of put on that beach line there, the hill for that beach line there, and tap through a bit, incorporate some of those colors there. There we go. And some of this over here going through. And we're going to actually join these kind of together here with a little bit of the inlet there. For years and years, I used to go up every summer and spend the summer and early fall, especially into the fall one, in a place called Big Lagoon up into the north of, just a little bit north of where we lived. And the lagoon opened up to the ocean every fall with the fall rains. But summertime, it was really nice. So now I'm going to put a bit of this lighter and down. I don't want to go straight across. I want to have some interest right in here, even though we're not going to see too much of it right there. Okay, so we have this kind of tan kind of color, but I do like to model it up. A little bit of my pine greens and some burnt siennas, a bit of blue. You know, blue and, like I said to you before, blue and the naphtha red make such beautiful grays that are great to kind of model into some of these colors sometimes too, and drop them in. Just drop in a little bit of gray, because there's, like, you know, gray areas and stuff on the tops of the rocks, and see, you can just pull down and model some of that color in. And then we can go heavier over to the burnt sienna greens and everything as well, just to get some nice mottled color that will work through, and we'll build on top of this with some shapes and stuff, but it just gets some of that color through, which is nice, and carries some of that through. Let's just take a bit of that. You know, I like to carry it through the painting a bit. And so we'll push that up there. Okay, and we'll even start, you can even add a little open medium to make it, I love the way open medium slides over the surface here. And see, that can allow you to, you know, part of the thing to get a distance, to get an atmosphere, is to not make that back line perfect. So what you got to do is blur it. So I'm going to pinch wipe my brush here, even pick up a little bit of blue, and just pull through here like this. Push up, pull through, blur that back edge, that back line of that hill. Now I don't want it absolutely perfect. I took out that one there and I got it a little too perfect. But I like to kind of blur it. This looks like the edges of trees and stuff like that that's going on there. So we'll let some of that just stay up on that edge like that. See? And in the photo there's a tree that's right up there, so we can even just give the impression of it just with the corner. I like to use the corner of a big brush. I figure I like that because it just makes it a little bit softer of an edge there for that. Okay, so that looks pretty good there. Let's go down in size of brush and work on that back here just a bit. Let's take some of that nice gray, some of this nice model color, add a bit of the open medium to it, and we'll actually put in, you know, what could be some rocks here. Now I'm going to go back and forth here with darks and ocean stuff here. Now, so see how I'm just kind of, what I want to do is just break up the edges, guys. I want to create some undulation, break up the edges. I'm not painting things too specific right now. We can come in and drop a little color on that that rock we want. I'm going to move it up just a bit here on my sketch. So there's that rock that's right there. We'll let some ocean pick up back in through here. So what you want to do is you want to, when you're, you know, for years I would be so precise with my landscapes and stuff. And step back and take a look. Like those of you that follow me, that's camera 1 and it's 8 feet away from me today. And I look at it on my monitor here. Then I got a monitor there, a monitor there, a monitor there, a monitor there. It shows all the different cameras and stuff. But I like to look at it. So when you see me looking at that, that one right there, that's a little bit closer. That one right there, I'm looking at the painting at 8 feet. Now, since you're painting at home, you have it on an easel. Get up and get back 8 feet. Take a look, okay? Because we do what's called optical blending. And that optical blending is so important. Let's pull some of this down. It'll help us clean off our palette. And see, that's just all good paint. Let's put some of that blue into that as well. Don't mix that. Just kind of grab it there like that. And let's just grab some of that color and just pull that through. I like textures and stuff like this. This is very impressionistic. And we'll pull through a bit, grab some of that. That just works great here, just like that. So we'll grab some of those nice colors. Let's grab some yellows, some lights here. And again, we won't mix up too well. I'll just grab that like that. Let's grab some of that color. And this is where you can see that hillside and stuff there for that angle of that hill there, that rocky face there, okay? And what I want to do is, see, I want to bring it out with a lot of paint. Now, if you get too much on something, pinch wipe your brush with your paper towel and slide back to the edge right like that, and you'll take the paint away right from the edge, and that causes it to recede just a bit. But I want to take some of these lights here, and I already blew through that yellow oxide, so I'm going to get some more here. So we're just going to grab some more, put that out. Let's give ourselves lots to work with since we have a ways to go on this painting. We're going to grab some of that yellow oxide, dump that in there, some white, dump that in there, just kind of model this. See, don't pick it all up perfect. Now, I can lay it on with the brush, which will lay it on a little smoother, or I can grab it like this, just kind of grab a bit of it, and you'll see it's going to be all modeled like that. And I'll lay it on here like this, that yellow, and you'll see I'll get some yellow interest and stuff into that cliff. Let's model that a bit lighter. Just barely touch the surface. Let the surface just kind of grab the paint off of your knife here like that. Just let it kind of grab the paint right off your knife. Okay, let's add a few when I'm doing rocks, I'll do pushes of paint. Now that's a lot of paint. Now in an impasto one, or what we call a heavy textured painting, I'd leave that, but probably a touch too much for what I want to do today. But I do like, you can see the textures, and that's life, that's energy to your painting. And so it's not that hard to get. Just, pick up a nice bead of it, hold your knife very flat, and just let the surface pick the paint off. Let the surface pick the paint off. Don't push. If you push, you'll push down. See, if I push, I'll push one color and block it in. Now I do that if I ever want to soften it. I'll push slightly, and I'll get that slightly softer look there. Okay. Now I'm going to let that's a lot of paint. I'm going to let that tack for just a minute. I'm going to add, there's a green, a little bit more of a green, a lighter green that's right up here onto the top edge of some of this here. And so I'm going to pull through some of that, get myself a fresh paper towel. I wipe my brush all the time with the paper towel. And what happens is, especially when I'm painting with lots of texture like this, you get a blob of paint here, and then pretty soon it's all over your hands, and then pretty soon the paper towel touches your clothes, and it's got blobs of paint everywhere there. We're artists, that can happen, but I tell you, even though I wear a smock and stuff like that, it doesn't help my pants and the other part of my painting chair and stuff. It always gets color in it. Let's just drop some of this in. Now, slight angle will make it look like little ridge lines and other little things going on there like that, see? So, we just use smaller little brush marks, movements, grab some of the yellow, some of the green here, and you can make a sloping line, a sloping edge there. Let some of that tap off there like that. Let's back down another sloping little line here. You can push it flat and you'll get more of a broken edge to it, what I call a broken part of the color. And see, that happens real easy, real fast like that, and you can get some nice interest in there like that. Now, come through the light here, and you can tell the light is coming from this way right here, from the left side this way right here. You can tell that in your photo by where your shadows are really cast. And so this shadow here is actually cast by what's coming, there on the other side of this ocean here. So some of your shadows, which will be your blues, burnt siennas, some violets and stuff like that. This blue burnt sienna is a nice color right now. Some of these nice shadows that we're going to want to pick off and add into these rocks here. And you can see how thick that paint is. So I'll pick it off and then add some of that color. Start to add the shadows. Make sure you wipe your brush because you're picking up a lot of light color. We'll tap a bit of that shadow along in a few other little places. Maybe you can make like little crevices and stuff like that into it. Use your photo for ideas, but don't try to copy it. So here on the big front rock, and I might want to add a little green every once in a while. Just change those colors. On the big front rock, it'll come this side. We'll model that around like that on that side there, okay? And I use the photo for reference, but I don't try to copy it at all. I just don't do that. Let's just add a few other little stuff going on there, rocks, little marks. My problem is I'm very left-brained, and I'll line up these little marks like little soldiers, so I constantly I'm having to, there's some people that can paint without thinking about it, just do it. I can't. I have to concentrate on it because I'm very left brain, and my left brain wants to line things up. So now let's just grab a bit more paint. Sometimes I'll put those shadows in, especially if they're along the water. I'll put them in with my palette knife. Sometimes I just take the chisel of the brush like this and hold that tap that along. See, I like that little bit of blue that came off there into some of those rocks. That came out pretty nice. Okay, and so that's, we want that to recede. So we don't want to develop our shadows back here. And that one might be a little too dark. It's you step back and look at it, and it all depends. We're going to darken up here, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Okay, let's go a little bit more blue, bit of the violet, some open medium, and a bit of light. If our ocean is up here, we put that in about a good 6 or 7. We'll go a little darker down here to a 4 or 5 here, and that's too dark. Okay, let's not go quite that much. A couple values darker. It's amazing sometimes to put that on. And we'll just add a bit of movement here to some of that. That could be a little darker up here by the shadows. But we're going to add some movement to our water here. Get this open medium in, because this really causes it to slide along the surface here, see? And it just puts some streaks in there, like it gives some of that movement of water, okay? Now we'll lighten up. We'll pounce that right in through here. Grab some more open medium, at least an equal amount of that open medium through it. And we'll just push through here a bit. Even some of that yellow comes out of my brush there. I'm not going to make lines, perfect lines of the waves. I'm just going to add some movement colors in there so that you can see there's water going. Now, I may take, after I just said that, I may take this, pounce it down so it's not a light 10, and we might just add a few pushes here. And so you can add a bit in there, go back to your softer bit and just pull through, removing some of that light here. And you'll give just the impression of a little wave there, see? Just happens like that. And if you can leave it alone, it'll look great. If you play with it, trying to make it look like a wave and give it a bunch of curls and all that kind of stuff, it's going to get worse on you, okay? I know. I've learned that. So now I'm going to take a bit of that light, and I'll just use the chisel edge of my brush. Sometimes push up a bit, and let's just come right along the edge here of our rock. Sometimes I do this with it. Well, let me just show you. The palette knife works really well if you're doing this type of painting. You can just slide it right along. You've seen me do that in other seascapes and stuff. Slide that light color. Sometimes I like to get almost pure white right as a little mark there, like the wave, like that's a little wave breaking there. See? And but I like it to be, I really, really like it to be loose. Very loose. Let's just push a bit back and forth in here. And not perfect. Let's drop some of that right in there like that. There we go. Some of that happening right in there. So it could be rocks or anything in there. You can take some of your darker blue here. And then what I do after I put some of that on like that, I'll take darker blue into my brush just a bit. Just wipe it on your towel there just a minute. And I come through and lift off what I don't need, letting this blue kind of set the motion here of the ocean here. Lift off in a few areas so that you see just some wave lines there, see? Just like that. The key to all of this, guys, is don't paint so much. Just let, and I know that sounds really easy and stuff, and when you're watching somebody like me, you want to get in there and, I want to copy and I want to get that copy, and then that's going to cause it to be stiff as you're trying to paint it like this. This does not look anything like my photo over there, okay? I let that photo go a long time ago. Does that make sense? Okay? I'm letting what happens, happens. I want a little more light right here, a little more white, kind of a splash. So I use my brush a little flatter, maybe even go up like that, see? And that's too much color in there, so then I just wipe my brush and I'll take off what I don't need there with my blue. the blues that are happening here. Sometimes I'll pull down to give more space to the rock, but you see that little movement there, okay? Maybe I see just a little edge of the light running along the edge of the wave right here, so maybe I'll just push a bit of that in there. I don't want to make a pure line of it, but that looks pretty good right there like that. Maybe I'll take this right up against the edge of the sand here and just push a bit of that right onto the sand there as well. That looks pretty good. And see, it's one of the keys to all of that is the open medium. The open medium is thinning out the paint. It's giving the paint body, but translucent body. So it looks like that this looks really great what I just did, and it looks really easy. It's the open medium. There's another landscape that I did, or seascape that I did a couple years ago that's on the channel, and it's painting with the faux medium. The faux medium in the Heritage line does the same thing. It's fantastic stuff. You don't try to paint with just regular paint. You use your mediums like this to help you get some of that translucency that we want to have into our colors and stuff. Now, if I want to go more white, I just pick up some more white. We'll pound it right here up onto the edge of that rock. Okay, just boom. And a little spray, a little stuff going on. Wipe your brush. Pick up just a little bit of the blue, just a bit, so you can help you lift off and take out, just pull through, give the motion, the movement to the water that you want it to have here. And let's just thin that out right there like that. It's coming that way. You can use the corner of your brush and just tap along a few other little sprays or movements. If you get too much, you can take it out with rock. You can take, what rock color? Let's put the light color on that rock. A little bit of our browns and yellows. So we'll push some light color into that rock there as well. Tap that right down into the ocean there. Let's get it a little lighter. A little more blue will cause it to gray up more. So let's gray that up just a touch. Even your sky will help gray that up. Bit of the red. If it starts to go green at all because of the blue and yellow, just toss in a bit of the red here and just model. And if I use a color like that into this rock, I like to touch it in a few other areas, so I carry that color through a few other areas in the painting. Let's model that just a touch lighter here, like that. There we go. And you can soften them off. You can back some of that color off if you want to smooth them out a bit. Give a little less texture and calligraphy to it. We can come right between the two there, the value-wise, create a halftone, a softer color of the rock here, halftone, and soften some of that between the light and the shadow here, right like that. I need to increase that shadow a bit more, so I'll go back to some red and blue. Not exactly what I used the blue and burnt sienna first, so a little different color. Here we go. So there's the rock, and that's pretty good. And I'm just going to take some of that halftone and just touch right through that just a bit. Take a little bit of that other shadow color off of that other rock there. So that looks pretty good. So you can see you can get some nice depth pretty easy back through there, especially if you use those mediums like that. They're essential. Now, there are a lot of the, I know a lot of you don't have the Heritage acrylics, and everything that I develop here, I develop for the, use the Heritage acrylics. It's the only thing I use. But if you're using other acrylics, you got to make sure that it is an artist quality, so it doesn't have fillers in it. Lower quality bottled acrylics, and not all acrylics are the same. I've said that to you a lot. Lower quality bottled acrylics will contain a certain degree of filler or an opacifying agent in it. And so that that color is made to be opaque, so they're not made to thin out like this and do some of these types of techniques, okay? So if you're having trouble with it, it could very well be your acrylic that you're using, okay? So we have to be careful of what it is that we're using. Okay, let's get some more color here. Let's take a bit of this. I love the burnt sienna as I come forward into an ocean scene here. I really like this. So I'm going to take some of my grays with some of my burnt siennas, and I'm going to push that right down into my water here, into my scene. A little bit of this color. See how I use different chisels and different angles of my brush, and I'll let some of those colors come through there, just like that. I can use, so that's my bigger brush, but I could use my smaller, not that one, this one here, my smaller brush, and I can give it some calligraphy, some angles, some slopes to the beach there, just like that, so you can start seeing slopes and stuff to it. We can use some of that calligraphy over here, slope it down a bit, here right down towards that water, okay, and let's break right here with a little bit of that water. Maybe it's just beginning to open up here, right into the inlet there. That's pretty cool. That'll work. Let's thin this out, blues, some of this blues and browns and stuff out, and pull that in. Your water is reflections of everything around it. So I'm going to start out by blurring my edges here, just like this. And let's, if you do horizontals and verticals, that verticals give you nice reflections. They're the pull downs that give you the nice reflections here. Horizontals and stuff are nice as well. Let's add just a little open medium to this and pull some of this out. And I'm feeling the paint on surface. I want it to really slide when I'm doing this. I don't want to do it too many times because I'll blend it into one color, but I want to get some of that nice movement there. Let's take just a bit of our lighter color through. Sometimes put in some nice verticals. The verticals pull that reflection down here. So a few horizontals, a few verticals. Here, blur these colors together. Okay, use your photo and stuff as an idea. That's all. It's just an idea. Now, up closer here, this will get more violet here. So let's get this a little more violet, a little bigger, some violet, some open medium here. Let's get into some of I really want to see that a little bit more violet. So let's just grab that. That's pretty. Right into some of these colors. Pull that down. We'll add a few highs and lows, but I'm going to take some of my burnt siennas and my yellows and some of these other colors and paint this nice loose edge, lost edge of it's not a perfect edge. These edges here are kind of going into each other. Some of that color will go out into the water, and some of the water will go out into the shoreline there. Okay, so I'll bring that in together like that. And then on the other side here, let's so whenever I scrape off, I get myself some working room. That's real good color. Just hang on to that. We can use that into the ground here, just like we could use this into water and stuff. Okay, but let's get a lighter blue-green, so it's a little different, just a bit different here. Maybe just a touch of that violet, but more of a blue-green here. So it feels different over here. Might be too much green, but that's okay. I should go back to that other blue, just a bit more of the blue here. So I just add a touch more of the violet to it, and it takes it back more towards the blue of the sky. That's a better blue. blue of the sky. Now you see all these beautiful colors that I have working in here into that water, because that's what water does, is it picks up all the colors and stuff of your composition and stuff, and does great things for it. Now let's take, and we can do it with the knife or we can do it with the brush here. I think I'm going to try it with the brush first. Let's get that darker shadow that runs a little further out here, because this is the main entrance of this is where we want the viewer to go. So we have to do that with contrast, light dark contrast here. So let's just pull this out, maybe right along the edge of the shoreline here a bit. And we'll let that just kind of fade away over there. But we'll get some of that color over there. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, I'll go back and forth. Like many times I'll take even like the palette knife here and pull back up to that to loosen up those edges and stuff like that, so they're not, so one color is not too dominant. See how it breaks the edge of this color, of this shadow, and so it's not too dominant. You want some, but not too dominant. Just tap your brush along the edge and you get a softer shoreline. And every once in a while though, we want to put in some color. Here, get some more of this burnt sienna here, and just drop that color in. Add like little shapes and stuff to your shoreline here. Just adds little shapes and everything to it. But that's all pretty much in shadow. We can get a nice blue, deeper shadow, like right up through here as well, right in there. Okay. Before it comes out of shadow, a few little touches there, and we can grab some yellows, burnt siennas here, grab just a few little areas that we can model up some more shadow up in here into the front. And I'll just grab all of that. We'll toss some of that back into here. I love working on this thick paint. As it starts to tack just a bit, it grabs your brush really nice. And that's when it grabs the brush like that, that's where I let the paint just kind of, the surface just kind of pull the paint off of what it is I'm doing. Now, I'm going to break this up, because this we can decide is trees or whatever, but we're going to break and sink that beach back behind this area here. And we'll do a little bit of that over here, because it's all in shadow. So I'm just using the chisel, sometimes the point or the edge of my brush, and just breaking some shapes, just getting some shapes in there. And you'll see a bit of the beach back behind it and stuff. We could even put some nice rocks and stuff like that in there. You know, you could put a down tree. There's, you know, how you get the driftwood trees and stuff. You can get a lot of fun things in there. Now I think I'm going to lighten up that beach a bit. So I'll go right over here to my grays that I just scraped off, which I was using over there for rocks and stuff. We'll add a little bit more yellow. And let's use this here, just as a lighter little beach color right along the edge of our stuff there. Let's just pull some of that through, and see, I'll even paint right into what I just did, so that it's you know, I don't create just one edge. I like to create multiple edges. Now this 3/4 is pretty big, so I'm going to go back, and you know, the size of the brush, and I'll take a look at it right through there. That's looking great. The size of the brush is so very important to what the look is going to get. Now, many times I take my scraper, and you see me do that with other ones, and just scrape right through. I'm going to do it a little bit more controlled today, just a bit. And I'm just going to mix over here a bit more of my yellow, some of this, but a bit more of my yellow and light. And I'm going to use my brush like you've seen me do before, very flat, to add that movement. And what I get with that movement when I hold it is I'll get a lot of deposit of paint, and then it granulates out. See how it granulates out? Gets that movement. out there like that. And so it gives me the highs and lows. And I can go back up here and push back and forth and build that. We can build that in, but that builds that edge. Gives me that nice beach movement there. Now sometimes on beaches and stuff I'll use violets and stuff. You've seen me do that before, you know, and which I like. Let's put just a bit of that yellow right out here in a slight slope, pulling down. There it is, pulling down there. Okay, this one here, boom, right down there. Just leave some of that brush movement so you get that, you know, so you get the movement of what it is you're doing. But see, I'm going to leave this lost edge. This is what we call the lost edge. That leaves it more painterly, which is what I want to do here with this one. Let's take some of this yellow right up with this and some of this burnt sienna. Let's carry some of that color forward right into here. And we can just push up a bit, lose the edge right up against that blue there. Sometimes I'll take my paper towel and just move them together so I lose that edge. And then I'll build a little thicker paint, not up against the edge, but just in from the edge, just a touch, so that I preserve that that lost edge. So if I build in just a bit and I leave a little bit of that lost edge there. That works so well. Let's don't forget to wipe off your scraper there, Dave. It'll build up paint. Here, let's just scrape a bit of this right through there. So I got some of those highs and lows and shadows and other things going on there. That's pretty good. And I can just come in here and ease some of that edge here. But some of these shadows and stuff here, I'll just incorporate, push into, leave some of that. So you can see I'm building up quite a bit of highs and lows and some interest that I'll come back in and put bushes and stuff like that in there as well. And I'll take a bit of this, maybe not quite as light, because this is more of the where that heavier shadow is. And let's just push a bit of that over here. Push a bit of that right in there. Stop short of that edge so that you get that lost edge there, right like that. That's good. Now see, this is all good area here. We can come in and build trees and build some bushes and stuff, but you might want to make what I call little sparks of through light and stuff through, little hits of light that come through. Break up some of that here. Let's get a little lighter here. Well, a lot of this, you know, up into the front up here, I'm going to work a lot of paint, so a lot of that will kind of tend to disappear a bit. Now, let's work on our reflections. Take some of our darker color, pull that down into the water here, pull it across to blur it a bit there. But we want to get just some nice blurry reflections, especially over to this side, which is the shadow side. So we'll blur some of that through. Give us the look of our reflections and another little edge there. I like those edges, those lost edges through there. There, that's good. And then you can put some of the nice lights now. So I'll take some of my blue, quite a bit of my white over here. Let's go a little bit violet with this when we do this. So I'll start here and I'll start stepping out to the side, looking for the value that I want. And I want that type of light, that casting light that's there. So that's going to be right up about a value 8 or so at least. So it's going to be a little bit lighter than what I have there on the water now. And we'll come right into here. I want it to be, I want that mixed kind of well. So I just pull that across like that. This is the casting light here, right against the edge here. That we'll see. And you can see that in the photo really well here. So I'm going to back up right up over to here and pull that light across there and undulate undulate a bit of the shoreline here. Don't forget to breathe as you're pulling this across here. Sometimes I'll pull down just to break some of that strong horizontal look. There, like that. That's pretty good. Let's put just a bit of the shadow into that up here. There we go. I want that surface to undulate just a bit more, so I'm going to start in on that shore over there, a touch more. Even leave a little texture from that blue is okay. There we go. Yeah, that's so you're picking up what you're actually doing here. Let me move this over just a bit. Is you're picking up that edge of that light that's right there like that. I'm giving just the idea of it, and I'll work some darks and some lights in here to help blur some of that. But I like that that light. Just a couple spots of that light. It shows a really good sky reflection. And you just pick out a couple of areas, like I've got too much yellow in that. I'm going to get rid of that yellow out of my brush. Every time I rinse my brush in water, I always put it back in extender to keep the paint from drying. That's better. That's a better color. Let's put in just a couple touches of that light right across there. Boom. Just right across there. That nice reflected light. Let's build that a bit more right in there. That could go even lighter. Build that up. And sometimes I'll do this 3-4 times as I build it up here. Drag that across a bit. There. That's pretty good. Few areas of shadow, because you don't want it always to be light. You can have a few areas of shadow. I don't want that shadow to be too blue, so a little bit of burnt sienna. See, that's a better shadow in there. You can blur those together. Just push them. We got so much paint on the surface now. This was going to take a couple hours to dry, but that works out pretty well. A little bit of the shoreline color, but I like that broken edge. I like that just I don't always see right exactly where that edge is here. There, that's better. That's good. So I like some of the darker colors and stuff in here. You might want to work on those a bit more. I want to put in some bushes and stuff, some yellow bushes, yellow greens here. Just some up and downs and stuff here. So I'm going to put in some and work these like this. Just work this up and down. Here you can hear me scrape. I like to do that. I build that up, those bushes up just like that here, and let some of that just go wispy up over the darks like that, and it'll look like bushes and stuff, see? So I'm going to add some of those right in there, right like that. Some of those over here. And I'm just going to show you real quick, and then I'll put some on, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. I'm going to put a few over here, right where that light is. Thing is, use different parts of your brush and scrape it here, so you can get some of that nice bush, that look to the bushes there like that. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm also going to take, while I'm working on that, I'm going to take some of my green, burnt sienna and stuff like this, and this is where I like to rest my hand too. And I'm going to come back and push in some horizontals every once in a while. That's going to push right back towards the ground like this. So I go back in, and usually many times what I'll do if I'm doing a commission painting and stuff is I'll work that 4 or 5 times to get play back and forth between the bushes and those horizontals to give the look that you see into the ground there. Okay, so I'll do that. So I'm going to be doing that. Now the other thing I want to show you here before I sit down and do some of this is I'm going to take some of my burnt siennas and my blues, smaller brush. This is a small little filbert, and I like the filbert. Or the flat, but I really enjoy the filbert. And what I'm going to do is just rest my hand here, and I start out first with larger kind of tree trunks. They get a little smaller up here, and I want to slide the brush back and forth like this. So I'm doing them very sketchy, and so their edges and stuff are going to stay very broken. Does that make sense? And I'll put out some, just a little point of it, and just put out some curved little branches and stuff. Sometimes I'll touch them into the sky here so that they fracture their edge, so they're not going to be perfect, okay? And I like to do it when this paint right here is real sticky, and that's the way it is right now. So I'm going to add some of those in there. I'm just going to sit down and just quietly put on some of those. I'll put a few over here, and we'll put the bushes on, and we'll come back and I'll finish it up for you, okay? See you in a minute. Hi, welcome back. So I did it just a couple of times. I'm going to move that back over here. I did it just a couple of times through here, and you can take some darker shadow colors. And as you work in, darker shadow colors, you use just the edge of your brush, and you work a few smaller little touches, little smaller areas. Touch in to reduce the size of some of your bushes, but then you can build that. Now you can do that a number of times. You can move this area more, which would be pretty also, into just some sand and stuff, okay? Now, back here, this dried down just a touch too much for me, so I'm going to add just a little bit more light back there and do that again. It's almost dry back there, but I'll just add a bit more light right up against that edge. And see, I love that texture of using this brush, and I like these broken little edges that you get through here. It just fractures the light, which makes it more realistic, I feel. I don't want to go right create a super edge with that. I want to get leave some of that blue and softer edge, receding edge. So I'll just push. You can see some of that blue is still wet, so I'll just push into that. So it gives you some nice movement there. Let's put a touch of open medium with this so it slides a bit more, and pull some of that right down. You may, when you're dealing with acrylics dry at least one value darker. That's the nature of them. And so it's okay to come back and refine your painting a bit more as your colors start to set up. I usually have to do that, especially with the lights, because I get that. Lights coming this way. We could have a nice, just for interest, a nice light hit there. Boom. Let's go a little bit more light. That'll really create a nice contrast area. Of course, the photo doesn't show it, but photos don't make great paintings, right? We know that. So, yeah, that might work pretty nice. Put another little hit of it right over here. Boom. Maybe a little touch right along that opening there. That'll work. That looks pretty nice. You know, I've got a lot of them running that angle, and I just pushed that at that angle. Wouldn't look so bad to push another angle in there in some of that and create the movement of the sand a bit. There. That's good. I like everything that's going on there. I decided to look at the way that's starting to dry down. That movement is staying there pretty nice. The question is, do I want to put any soft green burnt sienna type? Let's add some open medium so this is at least an equal amount so it's a bit transparent. Do you want to push any of those little shadows in onto this tree up here? You know that you see them quite heavy in the photo, so we could push some of that right up there, and maybe one or two for movement into that hillside there. There, like that. Just gives a bit more movement. But that's up to you. That's, you know, how much you want to do. Do you want to do more on the rocks? I feel that this pulls you in pretty good. I would probably like to see one more little highlight here, so I'm going to keep my colors clean. Blue, a little bit of violet, and grab the other side here, so nice clean white. Very clean, so not dirty. Got a good rinse going on there. Nice clean bit of that light here. Right up into the front, right. That picks up that bit of reflection before we head back here to our darker colors there. I think that just adds a bit more life right up here. Let's drag that across a bit. There. There, we can just push that to incorporate them. So when I say the word incorporate, you know, a lot of people always talk when you're painting, and I did for years too, okay? It's not that it's wrong. You talk about blending, and we judge everything about blending. Acrylics, you gotta blend. I don't. I'm a tone painter. I paint with the tones. There are certain times where I'll say blend them, but most of the time you hear me what I say is incorporate, okay? So what I mean by incorporate is I'll put on a light color right here. Now if I keep blending, if I keep going back and forth, that's gonna blend. What I mean to incorporate is, here's a little bit of a shadow. I wanna pull that shadow right into that color there. And that adds in movement to it. It doesn't need to be blended. They're pretty close in value. So I pull the movement into it like that. Like there's the movement of that water coming across the edge of that little inlet there. Watch right here is the shadow. So I'll pull the movement of this water right across there like that. So what that does is it pushes back a touch of the highlight, revealing some of the shadow. The two are kind of crossing each other. That's what I call incorporate. So if you stop, like for example, I stop right here with a light, okay? Okay, maybe you like that light. Maybe we like that light, okay? Now that light is just sitting there, and so I need to incorporate. So I'm going to push this once, push that movement of that color into the water there. I'm not blending that blending it would be pushing it into another value. I'm just incorporating the light in, see? And so I don't want to blend it to till it's another value. That's what I mean by incorporate. And you'll hear me, that's the secret to the roses and a lot of the things that I paint. I'm a tonal painter. I like to paint to the tone. So if something's dry, it doesn't really make too much a difference for me if it dries out, because I paint, I can just put another tone on and incorporate the tone, because I'm not asking those tones to blend. I'm dragging the tones over each other like that, see? So that's how I do it. Okay, that's how I do it. I'm looking at that monitor. I think that pulls in really well. I could intensify the darks right up through here so it gives you a better pull through, but I kind of like that. I might put just a few other dark touches and stuff like that. I'll tell that when it dries, but I kind of like that. Another thing you could do is you could put in a bit of white, working right against the edge there for you know, or even just a little movement like this to suggest a bit more clouds, a little bit of light, a little dirty blue coming out through there, but just scrub some light, some white in there, like that, and it'll dry down a bit, but that'll give you the feeling. If you want to have that, sometimes we want to have movements of clouds and stuff back there. That's I do like a lot of horizontals and vertical pushes and stuff like that. So, but that just adds that more movement. If it doesn't show up enough, then that means you need a little bit more blue into your colors. Okay. So there's a quick little one pulling through and doing a little inlet and stuff. Okay, and hope you enjoy that. We'll go back and we'll look at some other paintings here too. And I would really like to do a big one with you guys, and I'm just thinking, you know, how many should I break that all up into like segments, or, you know, do we put up a 5-hour? I doubt we could put up a 5-hour video up on the YouTube, but it would be nice for us to paint a big full size, you know, landscape. You know, one of the real big, what I really call my signature paintings, the ones that I put a lot of emphasis and work into. It'd be nice to do that. So if you have any ideas about that, just drop it into the comments, okay? Please hit that like button. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channels, and you know, we have a lot more coming. And we painted the irises and stuff. We painted those, and I have a whole bunch more flowers, you know, coming. A whole bunch more different kinds of, and then of course I'll continue with some of our rose studies and stuff as well. Okay, alrighty. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for joining me. It was great. It was great fun. Okay, I'll see you later.